Okay folks, this should be a pretty easy worksheet for you. This is worksheet number 2. We're focusing on molar mass, which is the mass of a mole instead of the mass of an atom or the mass of a formula. However, everything you did in worksheet 1 is exactly the same as what you're going to do here. The only difference is your units are going to be in grams instead of atomic mass units. So when I look at carbon dioxide, carbon is 12.011 and oxygen is 15.999. So I'm just going to do one out longhand. So it's times 2. There's only one carbon, so that's 12.011, and this is 31.998. When I add these together, I get 90044. So I get 44.009, and my answer is going to be in grams. Right, so that's all you're doing. We're doing that for everyone here. So let's just look things up on our periodic table because that's what it's going to take. Right, you have to take iron, which is 55.847, and you have oxygen, which is 15.999. Those are your two elements. I've got 2 irons. I've got 3 oxygens. So I multiply them out. I'm not going to waste your time doing that, and come up with 159.69 grams. Right, how about silver chlorine? Silver chloride, excuse me. Silver is 107.87. Chlorine is 35.453. I add them together and I get 143.32, and my units there are going to be grams. Alright, let's look at this one. You can do this 2 different ways. I'm going to write it up both ways and you choose which one you like better. Right. You have calcium, which is 40.08, and you're going to multiply that by 3 because I have 3 calciums. I'm going to take phosphorus. Phosphorus is 30.974, and I'm going to multiply that by 2 because I have 2 phosphoruses. Oxygen, be very careful, oxygen is 15.999, but here I have a total of 4 twice, which is a total of 8 oxygens. If I go and multiply all of these out and come up with an answer, I come up with 310.2 grams. Now, how could I do it a different way? Well, the other way to do it is say that I've got calcium, and that's 40.08, and I have 3 of them. So far that looks the same. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at phosphate. I'm going to say that I've got PO4. And phosphate is 30.974 because it's phosphorus, and then I've got 4 oxygens. Each of the oxygens is 15.999. I've got 4 of them, so that's 63.996. So you have to add them up together. That is phosphate. But now I have 2 phosphates. So I multiply that whole thing by 2 to give me a number. When I add them all up, I will again get 310.2 grams. Either way is fine. You choose which way works better for you. I personally prefer the first way, but I know lots of students prefer the second way. So you choose. Alright, you have that same choice to make here with tungsten phosphate, tungsten phosphate. I'm going to do it my way. So I've got tungsten, which is 183.85, and I've got 3 of them. And I've got phosphorus, which is 30.974, and I've got 5 of them. How many oxygens do I have? Look at that. Well, oxygens, I have a total of 15 of them. So I multiply them all together, and I come out with something that weighs a whopping 946.41 grams. Alright, how about looking at number 6? Well, for iron, iron is 55.847. Carbon is 12.011. Hydrogen is 1.0079. And oxygen is 15.999. Now, how many of each things do I have? Well, I've got 1 iron. I've got 4. I'll put my 2 here, plus 2 outside. So that's 4 carbons. And I've got 6 hydrogens. 3 of them inside, I have to multiply by 2. And the same thing for oxygen. I have 2 inside, I have to multiply by 2. So I've got, sorry, that's wrong. I've got 4 there as well. If I multiply all these out, I get 173.934. And again, your units are grams because we're talking about molar mass. Calcium carbonate. Well, part of what you've got to do here, folks, is remember what your charges are, remember how you do naming. Calcium is Ca, carbonate is CO3, that's one of the ones you have to memorize. Carbonate's a -2, calcium's a +2, so they cancel each other out. So I can just add everything up. Calcium is 40.08, carbon is 12.011, oxygen is 15.999, but I've got 3 oxygens. So I have to multiply by 3, add the entire mess up, and I get 100.09. And what are my units? My units are grams because I'm doing molar mass. Okay, lead sulfate. Lead is Pb. Sulfate is SO4. This has a +4 charge for lead and a -2 charge for sulfate. I go down to my lowest whole number ratio, which is 2 to 1. I cross them, so I need to have lead sulfate with a 2 after it. Alright, so my lead is 207.2. My sulfur is 32.066. Oxygen is 15.999. I multiply my sulfur by 2 and my oxygen by 8 because I've got 4 there times 2, which is 8. Right. I add those all together and I get 399.3, and my units again are grams. Alright, lead 4 sulfite. Ooh, that's a little bit different. Lead is Pb. Sulfite is SO3. +4 -2. That means it reduces to 2 to 1. That is very similar to lead sulfate, but it's lead sulfite. So it's 207.2 for lead. It's 32.066 for sulfur. 15.999 for oxygen. I still have 1 lead. I still have 2 sulfurs, but now instead I have 3 oxygens. So I have to multiply 3 by 2, so I have to get 6 oxygens. There's a 6 under there, folks. Right. When I multiply that whole mess together, I get 367.3 grams. Lead sulfide, that's Pb, that's S. Again, I have +4, I have -2, so I'm going to have PbS2 as my formula. Pb, again, we're getting used to this, is 207.2. You'll notice eventually you memorize a lot of these numbers. Sulfur is 32.066. I have to multiply that by 2. When I add that entire thing up and multiply it out, I get 271.3 grams. Alright, how about number 11? Number 11 is lead 2 sulfate. Well, lead is Pb. Sulfate is SO4. We have a 2 plus and a 2 minus, which cancel each other out, so lead sulfate is exactly what we want, PbSO4. Pb is 207.2, sulfur is 32.066, and oxygen is 15.999 times 4, and I add that entire thing up, and I get 303.3 grams. How about number 12? Lead sulfite. Well, we already know that lead is Pb, and sulfite is SO3, and we have a +2 and a -2, so they cancel. So let's add it up. 207.2, 32.066, and 15.999 times 3. We notice the only difference here is this is times 4, this is times 3, so my difference between the two should be about 16. Right? So when I do the math, I come up with 287.3. And funny thing about that, the difference is in fact 16, which is what we expected. Alright, how about lead 2 sulfide? Well, very similar. We have Pb, we have S, 2 plus, 2 minus, they cancel each other out. So I have 207.2 and 32.066. I add them up and my answer is 239.3, and that is grams because we're talking about molar mass. Alright, how about copper 1 sulfide? Copper is Cu, Sulfide is S. Copper 1 has a +1 charge. Sulfur has a -2 charge. So that means I'm going to need 2 coppers. So it's Cu2S. Copper is 63.5. Let's try that again. 63.546. And sulfur is 32.066. But I have 2 coppers, so I have to make sure I multiply that by 2. Add the whole thing together, and I get 159.16 grams, because we're talking about molar mass. And how about the last couple? Copper sulfite. Copper is 2+. Sulfite is 2-. Sulfite, we have to be careful with that. That's Cu, and sulfite is SO3. And the 2 and the 2 cancel. So all I have to do is add them up. So 63.546 for copper, 32.066 for sulfur, and 15.999 times 3 for oxygen. Add them all up, and I get 143.609, and that is grams, molar mass. All right, magnesium hydroxide. Magnesium is Mg. OH is hydroxide, 2+, 1-. That means when I crisscross, I need 2 hydroxides. Please make sure you put parentheses around the O and the H, because if you don't, you're only going to have 1 oxygen. You need to have 2. And magnesium is 24.305. Oxygen is 15.999. And hydrogen is 1.0079. I have to multiply my oxygens by 2 and my hydrogens by 2. I add everything up, and I get 58.319. And my units, because we're talking about molar mass, is grams. All right, that's it. If you have questions, see me in class. Have a good one. Bye-bye.